Welcome to our deep dive, everybody. Get ready, because today we're tackling how to absolutely crush that interview for a machinery, industrial equipment, ships, and aircraft distribution manager.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is. But don't worry, we're going to break it all down. We'll cover what the job actually involves, and more importantly, how to impress during that interview.
We're going to dive deep into RoleCatcher's resources for this one, career guides, interview prep materials, even get into how AI can give you an edge. It's a lot.
It is, but let's take it step by step. First things first, let's try to paint a picture of what this job actually looks like day to day. I mean, we're talking machinery, ships, aircraft. This isn't just about moving boxes around, right?
No, not at all. This is about the big stuff, the heavy-duty equipment that keeps industries running. RoleCatcher's definition really highlights that. Ensuring the right equipment, and we're talking big equipment, gets to the right place at the right time.
So, global logistics on a massive scale. I'm starting to see why this job might come with some serious perks.
Speaking of perks, RoleCatcher's career guide mentions some pretty enticing ones. High earning potential, international travel, the chance to work with cutting-edge technology. Pretty exciting stuff.
Sounds like it. But I imagine there's another side of the coin too, right? Long hours, high-pressure situations maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Like any high-level role, it comes with its share of challenges. RoleCatcher is pretty upfront about that. Long hours, high-pressure situations, sometimes even stiff competition. It's definitely not for the faint of heart.
Okay, so good to go in with eyes wide open.
Yeah.
But I bet that feeling of accomplishment when you pull off a complex operation makes it all worthwhile.
Oh, absolutely. And let's be honest, who wouldn't love the chance to travel the world and see some of those massive machines in action?
Okay, sold.
Mm-hmm.
But now let's get down to business, how to actually land the job. RoleCatcher provided us with 9 common interview questions for this role, and I have to say, some of them are pretty tough.
They are. But that's why we're here. Let's start with the first one. Describe your experience in managing distribution channels for machinery, industrial equipment, ships, or aircraft. It seems like a classic opener, a chance to showcase your expertise.
It does. But how do you go beyond just listing job titles and responsibilities? What's the best way to really make your experience come alive?
That's where storytelling comes in. Instead of just saying, I managed inventory, you could say something like, I implemented a new inventory tracking system that reduced stockouts by 15% and saved the company amount. Quantifying your achievements makes a huge impact.
So it's not just what you did, it's the impact you made. Show them the results. But what if someone's newer to this specific field? How can they tailor their answer to highlight transferable skills?
Great question. That's where you focus on projects or experiences, even if they're from a different industry, that demonstrate relevant skills. Did you manage complex projects? Handle logistics on a smaller scale? Maybe you even coordinated a large-scale volunteer event that takes organization. The key is to connect the dots for the interviewer and show them how your skills translate to this role.
Show them you're a quick learner, eager to apply your skills to this new challenge. That makes sense. All right, question number 2 from RoleCatcher dives into a pretty critical area. How do you ensure compliance with import and export regulations when distributing machinery, industrial equipment, ships, or aircraft? I'm guessing this is where knowing your acronyms is just the tip of the iceberg.
You got it. While mentioning regulations like ITAR or EAR shows you've done your homework, interviewers are looking for more than just memorized terms. They want to see that you understand how these regulations work in practice, how you apply them to real-world situations.
So how do you go beyond simply rattling off a list of regulations and actually demonstrate your knowledge in action? Give us an example.
Sure. Let's say you were responsible for shipping aircraft parts overseas. You could say, I developed a comprehensive checklist directly based on ITAR guidelines to make sure all our export licenses were in order and all shipments were properly documented. This helped us prevent any costly delays or penalties. See, that shows you're proactive, not just scrambling when things go wrong.
Okay, I see the difference. It's about showcasing your problem-solving skills and attention to detail. Now, on to question 3, which delves into the heart of inventory management. How do you manage inventory levels for machinery, industrial equipment, ships, or aircraft? This feels like a chance to get a little technical and show off your expertise.
It is. This is where understanding those industry-specific terms comes in handy. Don't be afraid to mention things like material requirements planning, MRP, or enterprise resource planning, ERP, but make sure you briefly explain how these systems are relevant to managing the specific types of equipment we're talking about.
So it's about finding that balance between showcasing your technical knowledge and making sure your answer is still clear and engaging for the interviewer.
Exactly. You want to impress them with your expertise, but you also want them to understand what you're talking about. Okay, moving on to question 4 from RoleCatcher. What experience do you have in negotiating contracts with suppliers and clients? This one feels like it's less about being a hard-nosed negotiator and more about finding those win-win solutions.
Exactly. I think they're trying to gauge your ability to build strong relationships, not just drive a hard bargain.
Right. And the best way to showcase that is with a concrete example. Tell them about a time when you negotiated a contract that benefited both parties. Maybe you secured a volume discount from a supplier while also guaranteeing them a certain level of business. That demonstrates that you understand the value of collaboration and building long-term relationships.
It shows you're playing the long game, thinking strategically, and that's what they're looking for. Okay, question number 5 is all about those relationships. How do you manage relationships with key clients and suppliers? This is where those soft skills really come into play, right?
Absolutely. This is all about your interpersonal skills and ability to build trust. Don't just say you're a good communicator, everyone says that. Instead, give them a specific example of a challenging client or supplier interaction and how you successfully navigated it.
So paint a picture of how you handle those tricky interpersonal dynamics, those inevitable moments when things get a little heated. Concrete examples always speak louder than vague claims. Now, let's move on to question 6, which focuses on your ability to handle the unexpected. Describe a time when you faced a supply chain disruption and how you resolved it. I imagine this kind of scenario is pretty common in this field, right?
Oh, absolutely. Global events, weather, even something as simple as a traffic jam can throw a wrench in the gears. This question is all about how you handle those curveballs, how you think on your feet and find solutions under pressure.
So what kind of example would really resonate with the interviewer?
Let's say a port shutdown delayed a critical shipment. You could explain how you quickly identified an alternative route, maybe even coordinating with multiple carriers, all while keeping the client informed every step of the way. It shows you can take charge, adapt to changing circumstances, and minimize the impact of those disruptions.
It's about demonstrating that you're proactive, resourceful, and always focused on finding solutions. Okay, on to question 7, which is all about safety. How do you ensure that your team is following safety protocols when handling and transporting machinery, industrial equipment, ships, or aircraft? I can only imagine how important safety is when dealing with this type of equipment.
It's absolutely paramount. We're talking about massive, potentially dangerous items. One wrong move could have serious consequences. So when answering this question, you want to showcase your proactive approach to safety.
What are some specific examples that would demonstrate that?
You could mention things like implementing regular safety audits, conducting mandatory training programs on handling hazardous materials, or even introducing a system for reporting and addressing near misses. It shows you're not just reacting to incidents, you're actively working to prevent them.
So it's about building a culture of safety within your team, making sure everyone understands that safety is a top priority. Now, question number 8 shifts gears a bit. How do you stay up to date with changes in the machinery, industrial equipment, ship, or aircraft industry? This seems like a question designed to gauge your commitment to continuous learning.
Exactly. Anyone can say they're a lifelong learner, but here's your chance to prove it. Name drop specific industry publications you follow, maybe logistics management, or a specialized trade journal related to a specific type of equipment. Mention conferences or workshops you've attended, anything that shows you're actively engaged in the industry and constantly seeking out new knowledge.
So it's about going beyond just reading the occasional article and really immersing yourself in the world of this field. Show them you're passionate about staying ahead of the curve. And finally, question number 9 from RoleCatcher takes on the ever-present challenge of conflict resolution. Describe a time when you had to resolve a conflict with a client or supplier. I have a feeling this is something that comes up quite often in a role like this.
You're absolutely right. Conflict is inevitable in any business, especially one with so many moving parts. The key here is to showcase your diplomacy and problem-solving skills.
So how do you frame your answer to highlight those qualities?
Focus on a situation where you actively listened to both sides, sought to understand their perspectives, and ultimately found a compromise that addressed everyone's concerns. Maybe you negotiated a revised delivery schedule that satisfied both the client and the supplier, ensuring the project stayed on track.
It's about showing them you can handle those tough conversations, find common ground, and preserve those crucial relationships. So we've covered 9 pretty intense interview questions, and I already feel more prepared. But RoleCatcher offers more than just questions, right? They have those AI tools that can really give you an edge.
Oh, absolutely. They have some pretty amazing technology that can analyze your resume, give you feedback on your interview answers, even help you tailor your application to the specific requirements of the job.
It's like having a secret weapon in your job search arsenal. But before we dive into the AI world, let's take a step back and talk a little bit more about the career itself. We touched on the exciting perks, but what about the day-to-day realities? What are some of the biggest challenges that a machinery, industrial equipment, ships, and aircraft distribution manager faces?
Well, one of the biggest is managing the sheer complexity of these logistical operations. We're talking about coordinating multiple carriers, navigating international customs regulations, optimizing routes for those massive shipments. It's a constant balancing act.
And then there's the issue of fluctuating customer demand and those unpredictable global market trends. This isn't like selling toothpaste, where you can just stockpile inventory and wait for orders to roll in.
Exactly. Forecasting demand for specialized equipment is incredibly challenging. Overstocking can tie up a lot of capital, but understocking could mean losing out on a major deal. It's a high-stakes game.
So being able to analyze market trends, predict demand, and adapt to changing conditions is essential. But it sounds like it keeps things interesting. Now, I know we're running a little short on time, but I want to touch on one more thing before we move on to the AI tools. What about career progression in this field? Where can this role lead?
That's a great question. RoleCatcher Career Guide mentions that many people in this role move into senior management positions, like becoming a director of distribution or even taking on global responsibilities.
So there's definitely room for growth. But what about someone who prefers to specialize? Are there opportunities for that as well?
Absolutely. You could focus on a particular type of equipment or industry sector, becoming the go-to expert for, say, wind turbines or aerospace components. Specialization can be a powerful way to make yourself even more valuable.
That's a great point. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, but we're not done yet. Stay tuned for the next part of our deep dive, where we'll explore those AI tools from RoleCatcher and discover how they can take your job search to the next level.
It's going to be fascinating. See you soon.
Welcome back. Now, remember those AI tools we mentioned? The ones that can give you that extra edge in your job search. Let's dive into those.
Yeah, I'm really curious about those, especially the resume scoring tool. It's amazing to me that AI can actually analyze your resume and tell you what's working and what's not.
It's pretty incredible. It's like having an inside look at how those applicant tracking systems are evaluating your resume. You know those systems, the ones that companies use to filter through hundreds or even thousands of applications? Well, this tool helps you understand what the AI is looking for so you can tailor your resume to stand out. So instead of just sending your resume out into the void and hoping for the best, you can actually see it through the eyes of an AI and make strategic adjustments. That's powerful.
It is, and it's not just about keywords. It's about showcasing your skills and experience in a way that both human recruiters and AI algorithms can understand and appreciate.
It's like learning to speak the language of AI recruitment.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher's AI tools are your translator. They help you bridge that gap between human brilliance and the digital demands of the modern job market.
So AI isn't replacing human intuition and skills, it's enhancing them. I love that.
Exactly. It's about giving you the tools to succeed. Now, switching gears for a second, remember those pros and cons we talked about earlier, all the exciting stuff like international travel and higher earning potential, but also those long hours and high pressure situations.
Yeah, definitely something to keep in mind.
It's all about self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
Knowing yourself and what you're looking for in a career. Can you handle tight deadlines? Can you deal with those logistical nightmares that are bound to pop up?
And honestly, can you handle those demanding clients? Because I bet there are some.
Oh, I'm sure there are. So it's important to ask yourself those tough questions before you walk into that interview room. Are you a good fit for this role? Does it align with your personality and your long-term goals?
It's about finding that sweet spot where your skills and passions intersect with the demands of the job. If you force it, you're going to end up unhappy no matter how glamorous the job might seem.
Absolutely. So let's get back to those essential skills. Remember, RoleCatcher really emphasized expertise in inventory management, logistics planning, and transportation optimization. Those are non-negotiable for this role.
They're the core, the foundation. But they also stress the importance of staying updated on industry trends and advancements. Things change so quickly these days.
Oh, they do. Technology is evolving, new regulations are popping up all the time, global markets are constantly shifting. It's a dynamic field, to say the least.
So how does RoleCatcher recommend staying on top of all that? I'm guessing it takes more than just reading the occasional industry magazine.
It does. They recommend a multifaceted approach. Subscribe to industry magazines and journals, of course, but also make an effort to attend conferences and workshops. That's where you can network with other professionals, learn from the experts, and really get a feel for the pulse of the industry.
And what about online resources? There's so much information available at our fingertips these days.
Absolutely. Following relevant blogs, social media accounts, participating in online forums, that's a great way to get real-time insights into industry trends and emerging technologies. And don't forget about webinars and online courses.
It's like creating your own personal learning ecosystem, drawing on all sorts of resources to stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And you can start doing all of this right now, even before you land the job. Showing that initiative, that you're already committed to continuous learning, is a huge plus in an interview.
It shows you're serious about your career. Now, let's shift gears just a bit and talk about something that often gets overlooked. Networking. I know, some people dread the word, but it's such a crucial part of career building. And RoleCatcher actually has some pretty solid advice in this area.
It's not just about schmoozing and collecting business cards. It's about building authentic relationships with people who can offer insights, support, and even open doors to unexpected opportunities.
I'm ready to hear those tips. What does RoleCatcher recommend?
They emphasize the importance of attending industry events, conferences, trade shows, workshops, all those opportunities to connect with people in the field and expand your network. Joining professional associations like the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals or the International Warehouse Logistics Association is another great tip.
Those organizations provide access to industry resources, professional development opportunities, and of course, a whole network of like-minded people.
Exactly. And don't forget about online networking. LinkedIn is a fantastic tool, especially for someone who's just starting out or looking to make a career transition. Build your online presence, connect with industry experts, showcase your skills. It's a virtual networking event that's always happening.
It's like a 247 career fair at your fingertips. Okay, so we've covered networking. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Salary. What kind of salary can someone in this role expect? Did RoleCatcher offer any insights?
They did. They mentioned that the salary range for a machinery, industrial equipment, ships, and aircraft distribution manager can vary quite a bit, depending on location, experience, company size, and the specific responsibilities of the role.
Of course, those factors always come into play.
Yeah,
But did they give a general ballpark figure?
they did. Their research indicates that the average salary for this role typically falls somewhere between $70,000 and $100,000 per year.
That's a pretty decent range, and I bet there's always room for negotiation, especially for someone with a strong track record and in-demand skills.
Absolutely. And remember, salary isn't everything. Consider those benefits, vacation time, professional development opportunities, and even the company culture. All of that contributes to your overall compensation package.
It's about finding a role that values you and supports your growth. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this section. We've explored the power of AI in the job search, those crucial pros and cons, and we even delved deeper into essential skills, networking strategies, and salary expectations for this role.
It's been quite a comprehensive overview. I have a feeling our listeners are starting to feel much more confident and prepared to tackle this job market.
I agree, but we're not quite done yet. In the last part of our deep dive, we'll explore some alternative job titles and related careers that you might not have even considered.
Because remember, this role isn't just a destination, it's a launching pad for a dynamic and fulfilling career. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. Ready for some career exploration? We're going to look at some alternative job titles and related careers that you might not have thought about.
I'm definitely ready. I always find it fascinating to see how different roles can connect in unexpected ways, like what skills overlap.
You're going to love this then. RoleCatcher actually provided a whole list of alternative titles for machinery, industrial equipment, ships, and aircraft distribution manager, and some are pretty surprising. Some are more obvious, of course, like logistics and distribution manager or supply chain manager.
Yeah, those make sense, given how closely those fields are connected.
Right. But then we get to import-export manager in machinery, industrial equipment, ships, and aircraft. I mean, talk about niche.
Wow, that's hyper-specific.
It is, and it really highlights how global this industry is. Imagine specializing in a particular region or type of equipment, navigating all those international trade regulations.
That sounds pretty intense, but also super interesting. What other intriguing titles did they have?
Well, how about move manager?
Move manager. Okay, that's a new one. What does that even entail?
Picture this. Relocating an entire factory or transporting a massive piece of equipment across continents. A move manager is the one who orchestrates those incredibly complex relocations, making sure everything arrives safely and on schedule.
That's a whole other level of project management, and I can see how the skills of a distribution manager would translate perfectly to that kind of role.
Absolutely. And it really emphasizes the need for creative problem solving in this field. You're often dealing with unique challenges that require thinking outside the box, not just following a set of procedures.
So adaptability and problem-solving skills are key.
Yeah.
What other alternative titles did you find interesting?
Forecast manager caught my eye. They're the ones analyzing all the market trends, economic data, even geopolitical events to predict what types of equipment will be in demand and when.
Wow, that sounds like a role with a lot of influence. Accurate forecasting could make or break a company in this industry.
No doubt about it. And it shows that there are paths within this field that are more analytical, more focused on data and predictions.
Perfect for someone who loves crunching numbers and spotting those trends. Now, I know RoleCatcher also provided a list of related careers, not just alternative titles for the same role, but jobs that utilize similar skill sets, and some of them were pretty surprising, like fish, crustaceans, and mollusks distribution manager.
I know, right? That one jumped out at me too. But when you think about it, it's still about getting perishable goods to their destination efficiently and safely. The underlying principles of supply chain management are pretty universal.
That's a great point. I also noticed electronic and telecommunications equipment and parts distribution manager on that list.
That one really highlights how important technology is becoming in the distribution process. Think about the logistics of distributing smartphones, servers, fiber optic cables. It's a fast-paced world that's constantly changing.
Then there's clothing and footwear distribution manager. That one seemed like a departure at first glance, but I bet there are more similarities than we realize.
Oh, definitely. The fashion industry operates on a huge scale, and there's constant pressure to get the latest styles to the right stores at exactly the right time. It's a massive logistical puzzle.
And last but not least, we have agricultural machinery and equipment distribution manager. That one feels like a natural fit, given the focus on large, specialized equipment.
It does, and it highlights how important it is to understand the unique challenges of different industries. Distributing tractors and combines is going to be different from, say, aircraft parts or clothing.
It all comes down to adaptability and a willingness to learn. I'm honestly amazed by the range of options that RoleCatcher presented. It really opens up a whole world of possibilities for someone with this core skill set.
It does, and it reinforces what we've been saying throughout this deep dive. Stay curious, keep exploring, and don't be afraid to think outside the box when it comes to your career.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways you'd like our listeners to remember?
First and foremost, that the role of a machinery, industrial equipment, ships, and aircraft distribution manager is a challenging one, but also incredibly rewarding. It demands a combination of analytical skills, logistical expertise, and strong leadership.
And we've given our listeners a solid roadmap for acing that interview,
Right.
from understanding those tough questions to showcasing their unique skills and experience. But we didn't stop there, did we?
Not at all. We went beyond the interview itself, exploring alternative career paths, the importance of continuous learning and networking, and of course, the power of AI in today's job market. We really wanted to give our listeners the tools and insights they need to not just find a job, but build a fulfilling and successful career.
Exactly. So to our listeners, we say, go out there and crush it.
And remember, the journey is just as important as the destination.
That's a great way to put it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of machinery, industrial equipment, ships, and aircraft distribution managers.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, best of luck in your job search. We know you've got this.